guy in blue got in the car before I even unlocked the door. He didn't knock on the window, didn't ask for anything, just opened the door and got in as if he already knew I was going to let him. I still had the $10 bill in my hand, the one the cashier had given me with my change. There was a folded note inside. It said the man in blue was armed and was going to follow me. I thought it was a prank. I had stopped there just to use the restroom and grab a coffee, nothing more. It was the end of April, 2:40 in the morning, and I had been on the road for 6 hours straight, coming from St. Louis with a load of auto parts to Kansas City. The gas station was at exit 71 of Interstate 70, one of those places where you see the bright blue sign from about 3 miles away and decide to stop just because it's there. There was no one else filling up, just 2 cars parked near the convenience store and an old Dodge Charger leaning against the side of the building. I went straight into the restroom, did what I had to do, washed my face, and went back to the counter to get coffee. The cashier was young, in her early 20s, with her hair tied back and a name tag I couldn't quite read. She said the coffee was fresh. I thanked her and said I'd pay by debit card. She insisted the system was slow and it would be faster with cash, so I took out a $20 bill and gave it to her. She gave me my change and a $10 bill folded in a strange way, along with the coins, and when I went to put it in my wallet, I noticed something written inside. I unfolded it right there, standing in front of the counter. It said the man in blue was armed and was going to follow me. I looked at her, but she was already serving another customer, and didn't look back. I thought it was a bad joke or someone trying to scare truck drivers, I don't know. I folded the paper back up, stuffed it in my pants pocket, and left the store drinking my coffee. The man she had served after me walked past me at the door and went straight to the bathroom. I didn't even pay much attention, I just saw that he was wearing a dark blue jacket and a black cap. I walked to the truck, finished my coffee, threw the cup away, and stood by the cab for about 2 minutes just checking my phone. When I looked up, the guy in the blue jacket was leaving the truck, but now he was wearing a gray sweatshirt and no cap. I don't know why that caught my attention, but it did. I thought to myself that it must be someone else, but the height was the same and he walked kind of hunched over, just like the other guy. I went back to looking at my phone and forgot about it. I climbed into the cab, locked the door, and threw my backpack in the back seat. I picked up the ticket again, read it once more, shook my head, and dropped it on the dashboard near the GPS. I thought it was a prank or some crazy person trying to scare drivers because it didn't make any sense. I started the engine, adjusted the rearview mirror, and put on my seatbelt. The gas station was almost empty. Just the 2 cars I'd seen before and the Dodge parked on the side. I looked at the clock on the dashboard. 2:53 in the morning, 112 miles to Kansas City. When I went to release the parking brake, I saw the guy in the gray sweatshirt crossing the parking lot. He wasn't walking slowly or looking both ways. He was coming straight toward my truck without swerving, without checking the license plate, without looking at any other vehicle. I thought he was going to drive past or knock on the window to ask for directions, but he came straight to the passenger side and pulled the door handle before I could even decide anything. The door opened. I had forgotten to lock his side. He got in, closed the door behind him, and sat down as if he already knew he was going to get in. He didn't ask permission, didn't ask anything, just adjusted his backpack on his lap and looked ahead. I stood there for about 3 seconds without saying anything, just staring at him. He was older than I thought, in his early 40s, with a scruffy beard, large hands, and a strong smell of cigarettes and cold sweat. I asked him what he was doing. He said he needed a ride to the next exit, that his car had broken down back there and that he would pay if necessary. His voice was too calm, as if he were already sure I would let him go. I looked at the dashboard. The note was still there. I looked back at him. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking in the side mirror as if he were waiting for someone. I asked what kind of car he had. He took about 2 seconds to answer, and said it was a silver Civic that had been left parked back there on the road. There wasn't a silver Civic at the gas station. I left the gas station and took the interstate entrance without saying another word. He remained seated there, quiet, looking out the window as if he were waiting for something outside. I tried to think fast. The next exit was about 9 miles away. I was going to drop him off there and keep going, no matter if he complained or not. I accelerated and kept the truck in the right lane. He didn't say anything for about 4 full minutes. He just sat there, breathing slowly and fidgeting with his fingers on top of his backpack. The smell of cigarettes grew stronger inside the cab. I adjusted the air conditioning and tried to stay calm. Then he spoke. He said the load must be light because I was accelerating too easily for a heavily loaded truck. He said Kansas City was nearby, and that the route was quiet at that time of night. My stomach clenched. I had never said anything about the destination, the load, anything. I looked at him again. He was still looking ahead, but now he had a half smile at the corner of his mouth. I asked how he knew that. He said it was just observation, that truck drivers know these things. I didn't answer. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and kept driving. He pulled out his backpack, slowly unzipped it, and put his hand inside. I looked straight at it. I couldn't see what it was, but I saw the shape of something long and black, before he closed the backpack again and dropped it on the ground between his legs. I saw the sign for exit 74 appear ahead. I put on my right turn signal and started to slow down. He didn't move. The exit had no gas station, nothing, just a secondary road that disappeared into the dark bushes. I slowed down even more. He slowly turned his head and looked at me for the first time since I'd turned in. He said I wasn't going to stop there. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. I asked why. He said we still had about 20 minutes of road ahead and that I was going to keep driving until he told me to stop. I took my foot off the brake. I drove straight past the exit. I slowed down again about 3 seconds later, pretended the engine had sputtered, and gently applied the brakes. He reached into his backpack without taking his eyes off me and told me to continue at a normal speed. He didn't raise his voice, didn't shout, just spoke as if giving technical instructions. I accelerated again. My hand was sweating so much that the steering wheel became slippery. I tried to think of a way out, but there wasn't one. The road was empty, no other trucks, no cars, nothing. Just me, him, and the sound of the engine. His cell phone vibrated. He picked it up with his left hand, kept his right hand in his backpack, and read the message without saying anything. Then he put the phone back and said there were 11 miles left. He didn't explain what those 11 miles were for, just gave the number. My chest tightened. I asked where those 11 miles were. He didn't answer. He just kept looking at the road as if counting the mile markers. I looked at the dashboard. The ticket was still there, folded the way the woman had given it to me. I thought of her. I tried to remember her face, the name tag, anything. Then it dawned on me. She wasn't in the store anymore when I left. I had walked straight through the door looking at my phone, and she wasn't behind the counter anymore. There was another employee there, an older guy with glasses I hadn't even seen before. She had disappeared. I took a deep breath and gripped the steering wheel with both hands. The mile 80 marker appeared on the right. He adjusted his posture in the seat and took his hand out of his backpack, but left it open on the floor. He told me to take it easy, maintain a constant speed, and not do anything stupid. He said we'd soon arrive at the right place and that if I cooperated, I'd get out without a scratch. I asked what place. He said I'd see. I looked in the side mirror just to confirm. The road remained empty behind us, but far, far away, there was a pair of low-beam headlights following at the same speed as us. They didn't get closer, they didn't disappear. They just kept going. He told me to slow down and take exit 86, which was coming up. I nodded, turned on the right turn signal and started to slow down. He adjusted his backpack on his lap and relaxed a little in the seat, as if he had finally achieved what he wanted. The exit ramp appeared ahead. I slowed down even more. I looked at the dashboard. The speed dropped to 45 miles per hour. I took a deep breath. Then I pulled the parking brake all at once, put the truck in neutral and unlocked the passenger door all at once in one movement. The impact threw him forward forcefully. His head hit the dashboard and his backpack flew to the floor. He tried to grab the armrest, but the door opened on its own with the swaying. I pushed him with my right arm while holding the steering wheel with my left. He fell out and rolled onto the shoulder. I didn't wait to see if he got up. I locked the door, released the handbrake, and accelerated back into the right lane. The engine roared loudly, the truck shook, and I returned to the interstate, flooring the accelerator. I looked in the rearview mirror. He was on the ground, wriggling, trying to get up. The backpack was still inside the truck. I thought about stopping and throwing it away, but I didn't. About 10 seconds later, I saw the vehicle behind me turn on its high beams and accelerate. It was a black Suburban. It sped through the left lane and tried to cut in front of me to block me. I swerved to the right, went onto the shoulder and kept accelerating. The Suburban braked, made a U-turn, and came after me again. But I was already far away. I saw the sign for the next town, 3 miles. I kept accelerating until I saw the lights of a Shell gas station with a police car parked in front. I drove straight in, stopped next to the police car, and turned off the engine. The Suburban drove straight past without slowing down and disappeared. I stood there trembling until the policeman knocked on the window and asked if I was okay. I told him everything. They went looking for me. They didn't find anyone. I spent weeks trying to find her. I called the gas station 3 times, went back twice, asked everyone. Nobody knew anything. The manager said she must have been a temporary worker, that there was no record of her in the system. An older employee said she only worked that night covering someone's shift and then disappeared, never even coming back to collect her pay. I tried searching on social media, but I didn't know her full name. She didn't have a last name. I didn't have a clear picture in my head. The police closed the case. The man in the sweatshirt was never identified. The black Suburban disappeared. She disappeared. I became certain that they filmed her swiping the ticket and that she paid for it. The $10 bill is still in the truck's glove compartment. I never threw it away. Sometimes when I stop at an empty gas station late at night, I take it out and read the note again. I can't remember her face clearly, only that she insisted I pay in cash. My name is Marcus Webb. I've been driving for 17 years, and that was the only time someone tried to warn me before it was too late. I ignored her. She disappeared. And I keep driving. Before we move on to the next story, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop a comment letting me know where you're listening from and what time it is there right now. I honestly love seeing how far these stories travel. It's also a huge help for the channel because it signals to YouTube that the content is actually worth sharing with more people. And if you're enjoying the video so far, don't forget to hit the like button too. Alright, let's get into the next one. The 2 DEA agents entered the trucking company's break room and placed a photo on the table in front of me. It was me getting out of the truck in front of a house I didn't recognize. The photo had a date and time in the lower right corner. 6 months ago. The older agent asked if I remembered that delivery. I said no. He turned the photo over and showed me the back. It had a residential address on it. I thought it was their mistake. The agents asked me to accompany them to a private room in the back of the transport company. I was nervous, but I went. The room was small, just a table, 3 chairs, and a window with closed blinds. They sat on one side and I on the other. The older agent, who introduced himself as Garrett, opened a folder and took out 3 more photos. They were all from the same day, different angles, all showing me unloading boxes in front of that house. He spread the photos on the table and asked again if I remembered. I looked more closely. The house was single-story, beige, with a closed garage and no company sign. I tried to remember, but nothing came clearly to mind. I said I made many deliveries, that 6 months was too long to remember each one. He said I should remember this one because the cargo had been used as cover to move methamphetamine lab equipment. The flashback hit me quickly. 6 months ago, at the end of October, I was finishing my shift when I received a call from Barros, a freight forwarder I'd known for about 4 years. He always had good freight offers. He said he had an urgent shipment leaving Boise for Reno, with above-market pay and same-day delivery. I asked what the shipment was. He said restaurant equipment, industrial stove and freezer parts. The client needed it urgently because they were renovating their kitchen. The price was too good to refuse. I was tired. Wanted to go home, but I accepted. Barros sent the documentation by email, a correct invoice, a logo from a company called Summit Kitchen Supply, CNPJ, everything in order. I went to the warehouse, loaded the boxes myself with the forklift. There were 6 large boxes, sealed with industrial tape heavier than I expected. I thought it was metal, large parts. I didn't open any. I drove straight to Reno. I arrived at night, around 9:40. The address on the invoice was on a residential street far from the center, with no traffic at all. I thought it was strange, but I figured it was the restaurant owner's house, that he was going to store the parts in the garage until the renovations were finished. I rang the doorbell. A guy opened it, said he was expecting me, and told me to unload everything in the garage. I unloaded it. He signed the receipt, thanked me, and closed the door. He didn't say anything else. I went back to the truck and left. I never thought about it again until now. Garrett pushed another photo in my direction. It was the same house, but this time with yellow police tape in front and police cars parked on the street. He said they found the lab 3 weeks after my delivery. He said I was on the list of drivers under investigation. My stomach tightened. I looked at the photos again and then at the 2 agents. I asked if I was being accused of anything. Garrett leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. He said not yet, but that it depended on my cooperation. He said they knew I wasn't directly involved, but that I had been used as clean transport and that this put me in a legally gray area. I said I didn't know anything, that I just made the delivery like any other. The younger agent, who hadn't said much yet, asked if I still had the invoice. I thought quickly. The company kept copies of everything for at least 2 years. I said I should have it filed away. They asked me to get it. I got up and went to the administrative office. The woman who handled the filing was on break, but I knew where the old files were. I searched by date, October of last year, and found the folder with the invoices for that month. I flipped through it until I found it. Summit Kitchen Supply. I pulled out the sheet and went back to the room. I handed it to Garrett. He opened it on his desk and began to read aloud. Tax ID number, company name, description of the shipment, 6 packages, industrial equipment for a commercial kitchen, total weight, value. Then he stopped and pointed to the delivery field. Residential address, Alpine Court Street, number 342, Reno, Nevada. Residential area. I froze. I stared at the paper as if it were the first time I'd ever seen it. Restaurant equipment, residential address. I'd never noticed that before. At the time, I just looked at the zip code, put it in the GPS, and went. I didn't think, I didn't question, I didn't find anything wrong. Garrett tapped his finger on the address and asked if I didn't find it strange to deliver an industrial stove to a house. I swallowed hard. I said I did, but that I didn't question it. He asked why. I told the truth. I said the agent was known to me, that the documentation was perfect, that the payment was good, and that I was too tired to suspect anything. Garrett wrote everything down in his notebook. He said I would need to give him everything I knew about Barros, all the emails, call records, everything. I agreed immediately. I spent the next few days cooperating completely. I handed over everything I had, Barros's emails, payment receipts, shipping history, phone number, everything. The DEA started investigating. Garrett told me to continue working normally, but that they would call me again if needed. A month passed. I thought the case had cooled down, that maybe they had found what they needed elsewhere. Then Garrett called. He told me to go to the federal office in Boise the next morning. He didn't explain why. I went. When I arrived, there were more people in the room. 2 agents I didn't know and a woman in a suit with a briefcase full of papers. Garrett introduced her as the assistant prosecutor. She didn't smile, just pointed to the chair. I sat down. She opened the briefcase and took out a printed spreadsheet. It had names, dates, routes, and values. She said I wasn't the only one. She said the organization used at least 5 different drivers over 2 years, all with clean records, all hired through known dispatchers, all thinking they were making normal deliveries. She ran her finger over the list. I recognized 3 names. Drivers I knew by sight, serious people who had worked for years at the same company or similar companies. None of them had a criminal record. Garrett took his laptop, turned the screen toward me, and showed me a series of photos. They were screenshots from toll booth and highway patrol cameras. The truck I was driving appeared in at least 4 of them. Different dates, different routes. He zoomed in on one of the photos. You could see the license plate, the truck model, and part of my face through the windshield. He said that all these deliveries coincided with the movement of laboratory equipment. I looked at the dates. I vaguely remembered 2, but I had no idea about the other 2. Garrett explained slowly. He said that the organization deliberately chose drivers with clean records because the highway cameras recorded everything automatically. If they used people with criminal records or irregular drivers, the system would raise a red flag and the cargo would be stopped for inspection. But I was trustworthy. I was clean. That's why I was chosen. The prosecutor closed the folder and said that I was used precisely because I would never give cause for suspicion. I asked what they wanted from me now. The prosecutor arranged the papers on the table and explained calmly. She said I would need to testify if the case went to court, that I would have to review all the freight I had done since 2 years ago and flag anything that seemed suspicious, any new freight forwarder, any cargo documented at an unusual address, any payment above the established rate without clear justification. She said this would take time, but was the only way to keep me off the list of defendants. I agreed. There was nothing to think about. Garrett pushed a paper toward me. Cooperation agreement with the Department of Justice. I skimmed it. I signed it. Then the prosecutor said something that froze me. She said that even with full cooperation, my name would be registered as involved in the case. Not as a criminal, not as a defendant, but as a key witness in a federal drug trafficking operation. I asked if that would disappear after a while. She said no. She said it would be permanently filed in the federal system and that any company that did a thorough background check would see it. It wouldn't appear as a conviction, but it would appear as involvement. I felt the ground disappear from under me. Garrett saw my expression and said it was better than being indicted, that at least this way I kept my record clean and could continue working. But I knew it would never be the same. I looked again at the invoice that was still on the table. Summit Kitchen Supply. Residential address. Alpine Court Street 342. Restaurant equipment delivered to a house. I should have refused. I should have called Barrows back and said it didn't make sense, that restaurants don't operate in residential neighborhoods, that something was wrong. But I didn't refuse. I accepted the payment, loaded the boxes, drove there, unloaded everything, and left without questioning anything. And now I was sitting in a federal office signing a cooperation agreement because 6 months ago I ignored the obvious. Garrett took the signed paper and said they would contact me soon. The promoter got up and left, without saying anything else. I sat there for another 2 minutes before I could move. I spent weeks reviewing every invoice, every email, every delivery receipt I had made since October of 2 years ago. I identified 3 more suspicious deliveries that followed the same pattern: payment above market value, clean documentation, residential address disguised as a business address, one in Spokane, another in Twin Falls, the third in Bend, Oregon. I sent everything to Garrett, and the DEA used it to track down Barrows. A month later, they arrested him trying to leave the country through Texas. The operation was partially dismantled, and Barrows was indicted for trafficking, money laundering, and racketeering. I continued working for the same transport company, but the manager implemented a new protocol just for me. Now I have to do a complete physical inspection of every load before accepting any freight, even those from old freight forwarders. I open each box, photograph the contents, check the weight, verify that the address matches the type of cargo. It takes 3 times longer than before. The other drivers don't have to do this, only me. I've lost confidence and I'll never have the same operational freedom again. I maintain my routine. I drive, I deliver, I return. But now I inspect each load as if it were the first time, because I know the record in the federal system will never disappear. The invoice from Summit Kitchen Supply is filed at home in a folder marked with the year. I don't throw it away because I need to remember. Alpine Court Street 342, Reno, Nevada. Residential address, restaurant equipment. My name is Drew Holloway. I've been driving for 12 years, and that was the only time I ever overlooked a residential address on a commercial equipment invoice. It cost me my reputation. Now I double-check everything before signing anything. The truck in front of me was spilling something on the road. A dark liquid that fumed when it hit the hot asphalt, leaving stains that looked like they were melting the yellow line. I tried to keep my distance, but it was spreading too fast. When I accelerated to overtake and warn the driver, I looked through the rear window of the truck bed. There was a man inside. He was handcuffed. I was driving on Interstate 84, crossing Connecticut, coming from Danbury towards Hartford with a load of automotive parts. It was late afternoon, around 5:40, cloudy skies. moderate traffic. There were about 6 or 7 cars ahead and behind me, nothing out of the ordinary. I was in the right lane, maintaining a constant speed when I noticed smoke rising from the asphalt right behind the truck, which was about 50 meters ahead of me. At first, I thought it was overheating, an engine problem, or locked brakes. But the smoke continued to rise in a straight line, following the truck's path. Then I realized it wasn't brake smoke. It was something else. I accelerated slowly to get closer and saw better. The truck was leaking liquid. It wasn't oil, it wasn't fuel, it was something darker, almost black, that smoked when it hit the hot asphalt. And worse, where the liquid fell, the yellow line paint began to fade and melt, leaving dark stains that looked like chemical burns. I slowed down again and kept my distance. I stood there for about 2 minutes trying to decide whether to overtake, pull over to the shoulder and call the police, or just keep going and wait for the driver to notice. The truck was a white box truck with no company logo, New York license plate, driving at the correct speed, without swerving, as if nothing was wrong. I decided to turn on my headlights to signal. I flashed 3 times. The truck accelerated. It wasn't a light acceleration. It was abrupt, as if the driver had deliberately floored it. I was confused. I turned off my headlights and continued behind. He maintained a high speed for about 20 seconds and then returned to normal. The liquid continued to drip. I looked in the rearview mirror. There were 2 cars behind me now, swerving to avoid the stains on the road. I decided to overtake. I put on my turn signal, moved into the left lane, and accelerated until I was side by side with the box truck. I looked at the driver, expecting him to signal. He looked ahead, ignored me. Then I looked at the rear window of the box truck, and that's when I saw it. I saw his face pressed against the rear window of the trunk. He was handcuffed and banging on the glass with his hands, his wrists bound in front of his body. The glass was dirty and foggy, but I could still see clearly. He wasn't yelling, just banging, as if he knew no one would hear, but tried anyway. I instinctively slowed down, almost slamming on the brakes. I moved back into the right lane. I took a deep breath, trying to process what I had just seen. I looked in the rearview mirror. The cars behind me were still normal. No one else had seen anything. Only me. I grabbed my cell phone with my right hand, raised it, and pointed it at the truck ahead. I filmed through the windshield while still driving with my left hand. I managed to record about 10 seconds, enough time to get the license plate, the truck model, and the rear window with the man still banging on it. I put the phone down on the passenger seat and dialed 911. The call dropped twice before connecting. The operator answered. I explained quickly. I said there was a truck spilling corrosive chemicals on Interstate 84 eastbound, and that there was a handcuffed man visible inside the truck bed. She asked me to remain calm and asked for the license plate. I gave her the number. She asked for my exact location. I looked at the GPS, mile 63 between Danbury and Waterbury. I gave her the information. She told me to keep my distance and not try to intercept. She said she was already dispatching units. I agreed. I kept my phone on speakerphone and continued driving. The truck ahead suddenly accelerated sharply, changed to the left lane, and disappeared around the curve ahead. I accelerated too, but it had already gained distance. The operator asked if I could still see the vehicle. I said no, that it had accelerated and disappeared. She asked me to continue in the same direction and keep the line open. I did. I went around the curve. The truck was up ahead, about 200 meters ahead, accelerating even more. I floored it, but I couldn't keep up. It disappeared again. I sped up, but the traffic got heavier on the Waterbury exit. I lost sight of the truck. The operator asked for an updated description. I said I'd lost visual contact, that the truck had become mixed up in traffic, and that I couldn't identify it anymore. She asked me to continue in the same direction and maintain a constant speed. I spent about 30 seconds driving without seeing anything, just searching among the other vehicles. Then I saw it again. 2 lanes to the left, mixed in between a Honda Accord and a delivery van, still spilling the liquid. I told the operator I'd located it again. It was at that moment that I saw the accident. A blue Civic drove straight over one of the larger liquid stains, and its rear wheels skidded violently. The car spun on the road, rotated 180 degrees, and came to a stop sideways on the shoulder, hitting the guardrail with its side. The impact wasn't strong. No one was injured in the car, but the entire traffic slowed down at once. I braked along with everyone else. The white truck continued, ignoring everything and moving forward. I understood in that second. The liquid hadn't been spilled by accident. It was intentional. Done to create blockages, accidents, to force traffic to stop. And the man handcuffed in the back of the truck wasn't there by chance. I told the operator this. I said the liquid was causing skidding and that the truck was deliberately spilling it. She was silent for 2 seconds and then said that tactical units had been dispatched and were less than 2 minutes from my location. She asked if I could still see the vehicle. I looked ahead. The truck had accelerated again and was exiting onto the ramp at mile 68. I said yes, that it was exiting the interstate. The operator told me not to follow, that the patrol cars would intercept, but I had already put on my turn signal and was entering the ramp behind it. I wasn't going to lose sight of it now. I left the interstate and entered a mixed area of commerce and residences, small shops, parking lots, traffic lights every 2 blocks. The truck accelerated sharply, past a yellow light that turned red when I arrived. I stopped, waited for it to turn green, and when I passed it had already turned left onto a narrow street. I accelerated and turned too. The attendant spoke firmly, asking me to stop following, that the units were already in the area and that I was putting myself at risk. I ignored her. I continued transmitting the location. Oak Street, northbound, truck turning right now onto Cambridge. She wrote everything down but continued asking me to stop. I saw the blue and red lights appear in the rearview mirror. 3 police cars passed me at high speed, sirens blaring, accelerating directly towards the truck. It was about 200 meters ahead. It turned again, tried to enter a supermarket parking lot. 3 police cars cut in front of it at the same time, coming from different directions. He braked hard, the wheels screeched, the truck stopped crookedly, blocking half the entrance. 2 more police cars appeared from behind, closing off any exit. The encirclement was quick and coordinated. I stopped my truck right there on the street, about 100 meters away, turned off the engine, and watched. Police officers got out of their cars with weapons drawn, positioned themselves behind the open doors and shouted commands that I couldn't hear clearly from there. The truck driver slowly raised his hands and got out of the cab. 2 officers advanced, threw him to the ground and handcuffed him. 2 others went straight to the truck bed. They opened the rear doors. There was movement inside. They went in and pulled the handcuffed man out. He staggered, almost fell, but the officers held him. He was alive. The operator asked if I was okay. I said yes. She asked me to stay where I was until the police came to talk to me. I stayed. I hung up the call. I sat there in silence and watched the video I had recorded on my cell phone. 10 seconds. That was enough. 2 police officers approached my truck. I handed over my cell phone with the video and explained everything I had seen from the beginning. The spilled liquid, the reaction of the asphalt, the handcuffed man banging on the window, the chase. They asked for identification and contact information. I gave them everything. One of the officers asked if I had a dash cam. I confirmed. They asked for a copy. I downloaded the file right there in the parking lot using the laptop I kept behind the seat and emailed it to the address they provided. The video showed everything: the truck's license plate, the liquid falling, the man on the rear window. They thanked me and said I would be contacted for a formal statement. Days later, an investigator called. He said that the handcuffed man had been a victim of kidnapping for 3 days, that he had been abducted while unloading in an industrial area in Bridgeport. The gang used the corrosive liquid to create slippery tracks on the road, force accidents, and stop other cargo trucks to rob them. The victim was going to be used as a hostage to access warehouses and facilitate larger robberies. The investigator said the video I recorded was essential in identifying the vehicle and coordinating the interception. He thanked me and said I would probably be called as a witness if the case went to court. I said that was fine. 8 months later, I received the summons. I appeared in Hartford District Court one Tuesday morning. The victim was there, sitting in the front row next to the prosecutor. He had recovered, was formally dressed, and seemed well. When I entered the room, he turned his head, recognized me, and waved. I waved back. I testified, explaining what I saw, what I did, and why I decided to follow the truck even against emergency advice. The prosecutor used the video as evidence. The truck driver was convicted. The victim was located, treated, and is alive because of those 10 seconds of recording. I maintain my routine. I drive the same routes, make the same deliveries. But now I notice details I previously ignored. Vehicles spilling liquid, drivers accelerating for no apparent reason, strange movements in closed cargo boxes, anything out of the ordinary. The video copy is archived in 3 different places: my cell phone, dashcam, and the cloud. I never deleted it. My name is Dean Foss. I've been driving for 9 years, and this was the only time I filmed something while driving. If I hadn't filmed it, that man would be dead. I almost didn't film it. That's all for today. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking around. Before you head out, please leave a comment with your location and the current time. I read through these to see who else is awake in the quiet hours, and it's the best way to help the channel grow. It tells the algorithm that our community is active, which helps YouTube push these stories to new listeners. A quick like on your way out is always appreciated too. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.